government want? Everything.
In 2000,
Hey guys, we're gonna watch "Devastating Downfall of Heroes," one of my favorite TV shows growing up. 2006. Well, growing up, I guess I was right out of high school. Uh, Great show, great show. They had like a writer strike and it ended shortly after that. So we'll see if there are any other reasons why it had a downfall.
2006, a TV show came out that fundamentally altered the way superhero shows are produced today. By 2010, that show's reputation was decimated. The tale of Heroes is a cautionary one, and it's one that might soon be repeated because on May 2nd, 2023, the Writers
Easily, my favorite character was Hero. Easily,
Guild of America called for
I would love to be able to just stop time and travel and do those
a
things.
general strike. It's difficult to really wrap our heads around the impact this strike will have on the entertainment industry, so let's look at what happened the last time the WGA went on strike in 2007 and what it did to one of the most promising
Bunch of lazy writers.
superhero shows
Just kidding.
ever created.
Wait, save the cheerleader, save the world.
But first, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Nerdstalgic if you'd like more content like this. When the first season of Heroes was released into the world in 2006, audiences were enthralled. The superhero-focused drama created by Tim Kring broke
Definitely one of the best villains in all of like villainy is the dude from this show. That he can just blow up. He could take your powers, but the only way he can do it is by stripping it from your brain. Yeah, definitely gruesome. It was dope. I like
new
it.
ground for superheroes on screen, 2 years before the first Iron Man movie was set to release. The first season masterfully wove seemingly unrelated plots together in unique and thrilling ways. Classic TV tropes like addiction, family drama, and high school pressure fit into the more world-altering conflicts of superpowered humans in ways
Yeah, this guy.
no show had ever done before. Every episode propelled heroes forward in an ever-intensifying sense of excitement, yet the pacing always felt appropriate. Whether it was the time it took for the titular heroes
This is the worst character. Every time she came on, man, I was like, they need to cut this out of the show, man. It was just so boring. Like, oh, you're mad at yourself.
to grapple
it
with their
going.
powers or the slow unraveling of the show's many mysteries. No arc ever felt rushed or overly drawn out. And then there's the outstanding cast. Milo Ventimiglia, Hayden Panettiere, Zachary Quinto, and the clear breakout star, Masioka.
Don't worry, New York.
Yep, the best.
We will save you.
These actors, along with several other notable performances in the core cast, are still remembered today. Watching each character come to terms with who they were and overcome personal barriers through their sudden onset powers was deeply satisfying. And each actor brought their all to their performances. Viewership was sky high, capping out at an impressive 16 million in the middle.
Yeah, this is like the last time TV was any good. TV has gone so downhill. It's all reality TV shows and nonsense like that. But back then, this was like pure TV. Like this was good television. And granted, like The Flash had a good run, but like after he started fighting the shark, it was like, Jesus, man, just cut it out. And then Arrow was great, but then you started reviving everybody in the Lazarus pit. It's like, come on, man. Like, how many times can you do this? Like, they just ruin a good show by getting lazy and starting to do repetitive stuff like that. And like this show, the first season was amazing, and we'll find out why it fell off. But it's it was very well written. It wasn't that quick back and forth like conversation. It was like real conversations when you would watch it. That's why I really enjoyed it.
Of the season, and around that time, the award nominations started to pour in too. The Golden Globes nominated the show for Best Television Drama and Masioka for Best Supporting Actor on a TV series.
Yes, sir.
17 years later, the quote, "Save the cheerleader, save the world," is still recognizable as a sort of hero-shaped beacon of pop culture.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. What does that even mean?
And yet, even though we have fond memories of this show, its legacy is in tatters. As early as the second season, Heroes saw a sharp decline in quality. Though nearly 17 million people tuned in for the premiere, the rest of the season could only garner around 11 million viewers per episode at most, and reviews were unfavorable to say the least. There are a lot of factors you can shift blame onto for this. The introduction of new characters felt hasty. They weren't given enough time to integrate themselves with an audience who already loved the existing cast, and they often felt more like plot objects than actual characters. Tim Kring had a
Yeah, it's usually what happens when you have success. They probably get pressure from the higher ups to just add more characters so we can have more marketability, and stuff like that, so they can just push the narrative more, and then it takes away from the actual story. So, like when you can really build up a character, and of course, Heroes first season already had a bunch of characters. So imagine trying to add more to that for a TV show. Like you're getting an hour max, and really with commercials like 45 minutes to like explain all these people. So, I mean, it takes a lot away from the TV show when you do that.
initially envisioned Heroes as a show where each season would be a completely new story with an entirely new character roster, which is why Season 1 wraps itself up so neatly. But because the world wanted more of the same, our first season Heroes stuck around.
I'm back.
In order to keep these recurring characters interesting, stakes and consequences from the previous season were largely ignored. Powers were downgraded or removed entirely, previously established development flew out the window, and the romantic subplots they attempted to shoehorn in were dull and ill-conceived. The steady yet energetic pacing from Season 1 gave way to painful plotting as each episode seemed to struggle to fill its runtime, and generally, the whole thing felt like a sad, scrambling walk to the finish line. You might be noticing a pattern here in that several of these issues stem from the writer's room. That's because in 2007, in the middle of Heroes' second season, the Writers Guild of America went on strike.
We don't want to work for free.
Originally, Season 2 was intended to be written in 3 acts, or volumes, called Generations, Exodus, and Villains. The Exodus volume had to be scrapped entirely during the writer's strike, and the Villains arc would be pushed into Season 3. As such, Season 2 of Heroes was only 11 episodes long. That's less than half of the first season's 23-episode length, and yet they still somehow managed to make it
23 episodes. Usually you get 11 now. 11 is like the number, and they're maxed out. Crazy budget, all of that just for 11. These guys did it with 23 episodes in one season.
a drag. To say this left audiences with a bad taste in their mouths is a gross understatement.
You can't fight the future. Neither can you.
At the time, the WGA was primarily concerned about the growing prevalence of internet distribution and wanted rules in place to protect writers and their residuals. After a 100-day battle, they got what they wanted. However, the entire entertainment industry was treading water while writers formed a picket line. Among the picketing masses was Tim Kring, who was fighting against his own show in a moment he described to Entertainment Weekly as so surreal. He went on in that same interview to detail many of the problems with Season 2, and then ended on an optimistic note where he saw a future for Heroes as a rebooted version of itself. A nice idea that would never really come to fruition. Once the writers returned to their work at the end of the strike, Heroes was...
It's crazy how the writers create everything, from a perspective of actual, writing it down, obviously, because that's the title of their job. But then you go and you don't pay them. Like how do you get it on Netflix? How do you get it on these things without the writers? And then you're not going to pay them. You're going to nickel and dime them. You're going to treat them poorly. Like, just pay them. This is the whole point of the industry, is to create. And now you're not even allowing the creators to get paid so they can create more freely. You don't want a guy creating a TV show and all he's thinking about is paying his bills. That's ridiculous. We're in here for the entertainment. We don't want to see it bleed over into the actual storyline, and then you get a boring story, and then it kind of hurts your bottom line anyway. So, maybe pay the people.
still unable to regain the forward momentum it so evidently had in its first season.
I come in peace.
The damage had been done, and the show never quite got back into the swing of things. Many of the same hangups from Season 2 persisted, anxieties about the show's sizable budget began to surface, and after the lowest ratings in the show's history during Season 4, Heroes was officially cancelled. It returned in a 2015 miniseries as Heroes Reborn, but we don't talk about Heroes Reborn.
This time, you see the cheerleader.
I will stop the bomb.
And just like that, one of TV's most groundbreaking superhero dramas was put to rest in shaky ground. If one solid season was enough to pave the way for the likes of the MCU, imagine what might have been if Heroes had kept its quality consistent. Instead, a show with so much potential was struck down in its prime by studios negotiating in bad faith. And it's only one example of what happened in 2007. Countless projects were affected, canceled, or put on pause for weeks. That's the power of a writer's strike.
Right, exactly.
We're only able to fathom the full ramifications of these events because we've had 16 years to catalog them, so remembering that we're watching another strike unfold today in 2023 might start to feel like a media-based apocalypse. It's true that a massive amount of shows are going to be affected by the 2023 writer's strike. Remember that the Writers Guild only strikes after negotiations with various Hollywood studios fail to reach an agreement on important issues. In 2007,
Yeah, like paying them, you should always reach to that issue of paying people for what they're worth and what they're bringing to your business. You know, any business, you should be paying these people. They're the ones who are producing the actual labor to create what you're trying to sell. So if that's the case, you might want to pay these people, you know, to continue to get the right quality, or else you get a subpar quality, and then you get what you get today, where nobody's watching NBC for the nightly programming. Nobody cares about that stuff anymore. They just go straight to YouTube and Netflix and stuff like that. But now they're gonna fall off because as you've seen, Netflix has fallen off pretty good. Yeah, and that's just pay your people, man. Like you're gonna get so much better quality out of that. Your bottom line won't be as great, but hey, you know, you'll still have a good bottom line.
these important issues were internet distribution. In 2023, with the ever-rising popularity of streaming services, it's still internet distribution. But the main focus of the strike is the use of artificial intelligence to take jobs away from writers. Among a host of common bargaining chips like staffing requirements,
All right, so this is definitely turning to from a hero's downfall to talking more about the unions and and the writer's strike. So overall, for the hero's downfall, it definitely was because of this writers guild strike. Kind of just brought everything down, really took away from the story. Had poorly written stories towards the ends there, and that's ultimately what brought it down. And you know, it's sad to see because it's such a great show, or it was such a great show. So hopefully they'll come up with something to fix this problem, and we can enjoy our shows a little bit better. All right, guys, just don't watch The Flash anymore.